I'm sure everybody's gotten a copy of the injury report. We'll answer any questions.
Coach, there are those casual fans that they're frankly apathetic as to the outcome on Sunday. All they see is the numbers: a 4-10 Bears team,
Right.
a winless Browns team. Why should they care?
Well, I mean, again, I appreciate our fans for sure. I think obviously been a frustrating season from a win-loss standpoint, but as I kind of reflect back at the games at our place, I think they've all been entertaining games. Anyways, they've all been close. Would have liked the outcome to have been different in a few of those, but again, I can understand their frustration. But I know our guys are giving it their all, and we will on Sunday.
John, what do you see in Cleveland's run defense?
They stack a lot of guys in the box. I think, a little bit similar to the Saints and their style of play. Knowing Dennis, knowing Greg over the years, there's similar systems, obviously personnel different. But that same mindset and some of the things they do are pretty aggressive of stacking the box, in particular on early downs.
Is it possible to run against a team that stacks the box, or is that just a simple conclusion?
Well, I think, we've kind of seen more of that of late. I think, again, we're going to have to execute better, in the passing game to combat that, and that'll be our challenge on Sunday.
And all the personnel changes defensively since you guys have arrived here, how would you kind of describe the start to finish that Vic Fangio has done?
Well, I think we've done a tremendous job, I think, in reworking the defense. I believe we were 32nd in the league the year prior to getting here. I think over this period of time, almost to complete 3 seasons, we're in the top 10 range. And not to say that we've been overly fortunate with injuries through these 3 seasons, but I think that's probably is steady of an improvement. I think our roster, whether you're talking about offense or defense, has changed dramatically, over this period of time.
Dal was kind of talking yesterday about how good of an opportunity it was to get Mitch to throw the ball 46 times in Detroit. Can you see the benefits to throwing the ball that much for a young quarterback, regardless of what's going on the scoreboard?
I think, again, it's kind of, catch-22 when you get in that situation. I think, there's no doubt that, you expose the quarterback more when you do that. So there's a fine line. I think from an experience standpoint, I can see what Dal's, basically relating that to. But again, you want a guy to have success, and I think Mitch has kind of made that steady success. I think, as I mentioned, even after the game, a lot of people just see the box score and the interceptions, but there were really some tremendous reads, tremendous throws that, knowing Mitch to this point, he'll learn and grow from.
When you guys decided to play him in Week 5, and you imagined what his growth would be like, and how does the reality compare to kind of what you expected out of him?
I think when you look at, again, I've had the opportunity to see a lot of rookie quarterbacks. Some of them are in the Hall of Fame now. To watch that growth, I think it's hard to say, to make your decision after a rookie year. I mean, I can go back to, Peyton Manning, Troy Aikman, guys that, their team did not have success. So one of them had maybe a little more talent around him than the other. That's a key factor. But they don't have immediate success. I think you look at, even a couple of guys that were taken last year high in the draft, you look at year 1 to year 2, there's a dramatic improvement. And, with guys that are capable, and I believe Mitch is, they make those kind of jumps.
When was it clear to you that he was going to be very capable?
I'm not going to share all that, but it was pretty early, and I think, I think our staff has done a good job at making that a pretty positive growth period as well.
In talking about the rookie quarterbacks you've had experience with, I don't want you to share your secrets, so to speak, but are there any common denominators that you can just pick up on early on?
Again, it's hard to predict the future. I think it's hard for all of us. But on what I've seen, I think I mentioned this the other day, is, I see a bright future for Mitch.
And special teams has been also kind of rebuilt since Hester left, Told left, and stuff, and it's been a little bit of a struggle. Well, how do you rate what you guys have done on special teams? Because it seems like you've held your own, but not, it seems like there's plays out there that are just not happening or could happen.
Well, I think, again, not an excuse, reality is, injuries have a little bit to do with that. We've been through 3 kickers this year. I think, that can be interesting. But return-wise, I don't know that we had a legitimate returner until this year with Tariq, and I think he's, I think he was nominated to be a second alternate, in the Pro Bowl. So for a young rookie, I think he's pretty dynamic. He's had a couple called back, that I think, could have elevated that some. But I think just until this year, I think from a return game, kickoff coverage stuff, I think, we've been decent. We had the one setback in Baltimore where, you could argue he was down or not down. I think everybody in the stadium thought he was down, including our team and their team. But, I think there's about, 3 yards that separates 1 and 32 when you're talking about those kind of statistics. So I don't think it's too crazy. But, I think, holding our own, I think, would be fair. Okay. All right, thank you.
Impressive.
Jeff, with Jabril Peppers, there's obviously a league-wide discussion about how he's going to be used in the NFL, and I'm just curious from your assessment how he's done on special teams, what you guys have to worry about defending.
Yeah, I don't think there's any special teams discussion on how he's going to be used. I mean, he's a really good returner coming out of college. I felt like this was the best return class there was, really since I've been doing it in terms of the number of guys, and he was part of the reason why. I mean, even some of the other guys that not a lot of people knew about, whether it's Tariq or Agnew from Detroit, I mean, the rookies have really impacted the return game. He's been up and down in terms of his health. He's a very strong returner. He's got excellent contact balance, and the big plays are there. He looks like a guy who's trying to score every time he touches the ball, and we got to do a good job tackling him because that's the biggest thing that jumps off the tape is his ability to break tackles.
When DeAndre Houston-Carson, one of your best special teams players, commits a penalty that takes back a kick, I mean, what can you do besides hold your hands up? I mean, or do you feel like it was an egregious mistake on his part, or what do you do when one of your best players makes a mistake?
I don't do anything different than any of our players make a mistake. I mean, you try and correct them, show them what they could have done better. In preparation, you're trying to anticipate some of the ways that people will combat different plays that you have. That particular play was a misdirection play, and his job on that play was to anticipate the guy crossing his face and kind of take him that way. And because Detroit's a good coverage group and really aggressive on the inside, so the thing that I think I could have done better from a preparation standpoint, players could do better in preparation standpoint, is anticipate once the coverage team recognizes that misdirection action, they're going to plant, stop, come back, and we've got to be ready for that. He didn't have his hands outside. He had his hands inside. He was in a really good position. I thought he could have done more. This is the conversation I had with the player. I thought we could have done more to continue that player on his path as opposed to waiting so much for him to make that second maneuver, because we could have kind of cleared the space as opposed to putting ourselves in a position to where we would have to continue that block in a different manner.
And to take a step back on that, when you see, it seems like every week or each week, there's another little thing that goes wrong. When they add up like that, do you figure that's just guys making random mistakes, or is there some kind of pattern or something going wrong as far as getting the message across to guys to stay clean?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, we certainly don't go into a meeting and say, guys, let's have as many blocks in the back and holding as we possibly have. We're trying to coach guys with the right techniques. There's been some different things that have shown up when you isolate one particular area, whether it's outside in the vise or in the transition part when the ball gets fielded on punt return, the open field blocking, when we're engaged in the kickoff return stuff. You know, you're trying to coach certain aspects to it. It's not a global deal where you're saying, I don't think as a coach I'm doing justice to our players if I'm saying, guys, we can't hold. Okay, because I need to be teaching them, here's the things that we need to be doing so that those penalties don't get called. Don't put yourself in a position where you're trailing a player. And if you do, if you find yourself trailed, turn around and go block somebody else. We try and build in some things there, but you know, a couple weeks ago or a month ago or whatever, bye week, you know, you guys were asking me kind of what are some of the things that have shown up. And one of the things I approached our players with was we were at that point really good in the penalty area, at least on special teams. And we've had multiple games since then. We've had 2 penalties. Sometimes it stands up more than others because obviously against San Francisco it negated a long return out of Tariq, and so did this past week. But it's something we got to clean up as a coaching staff, as a group of players, so that stuff doesn't show up and those positive plays can stand and impact the game that way.
So how is Kyle Fuller's special teams value evolved for you during your time here?
Yeah, I mean, Kyle's had a lot of different roles with our team. He's got a lot of position flexibility. He's a bigger corner. He's really fast, and it's important to him. So, you know, with his defensive role increasing, we've tried to have him not quite as much of a special teams role this year as opposed to some of the games where he's maybe not been starting playing every snap of defense. He's kind of floated back and forth between playing corner on our punt return group and playing on kickoff coverage, but he sits in all of our gunner meetings. He's, you know, kind of a backup. You know, if we had 3-4 guys get hurt, kickoff return, you can jump in and return. He can catch punts. I mean, he's one of those athletes who can do a lot of different things. So he works hard at it and is always ready to go if he's called upon.
You said it's important to him. That's not a small thing?
I don't think so. You know, I mean, was this 4th NFL team I've been with, 14th year in the league. You're going to be exposed to different mindsets of players. You know, there's some guys who feel like, you know, I'm a starter on offense and defense, and why am I even in this meeting, or why am I playing? There's some guys who realize the impact that they can make by being on those groups. You know, Kyle, I think, understands, and he and Prince have kind of split that position on our punt return group, understand that if we can get the gunner stopped, if we can keep them from getting down the field, you know, Tariq's a pretty decent punt returner. So they want to do their part to try and help us out in that way, and they care about their teammates as well.
When you have somebody like Tariq who's a threat to go anytime, are the blocks a little more crisp? Is everybody a little more dialed in, knowing that there's a chance that they start?
Probably disagree with you. I think this. I think that when you've got a chance to have a play in the return game, guys are always going to do their best, and they are fighting, and they're all prideful players. I mean, that's part of the reason why penalties happen, and it doesn't matter what side of the ball you're talking about. Guys, you know, feel like they're getting beat and are trying to do everything they can so their guy doesn't hit the quarterback, or their guy doesn't score a touchdown if they're in coverage, or their guy doesn't make a tackle if they're in a blocking area. So, you know, I think guys understand the impact the returns can make in a game, and we try to, you know, illustrate that stuff throughout the week. You know, Kyle being one of those guys, all those guys, they understand that, and they're just trying to do their best for us to have as good a play as we can.
Jeff, has Pat O'Donnell been in the league long enough that he's kind of defined this is what he is, or is there another level for a punter like him to reach, you know, in the future?
I think Pat's still growing. I think those guys kind of figure out what they're good at, and they're trying to, as coaches, we try to put them in a position to be successful. Because if we're asking guys to do things that they're either incapable of doing or not comfortable doing, in any area, you're kind of fighting uphill. So we try to play to Pat's strengths in the different field position stuff, in the different game situations. I think that he is growing. Last week wasn't one of his better games, but, you know, he's had games, you know, at times where he's kind of taken over. He's got a really strong leg. You know, he's a tall guy. He's got long levers. You know, guys like that, you know, if they drop the ball a little bit low, you know, we can get some distance on it without hang time. If the guy, you know, if he gets his leg up through it, you know, the ball may be in the air over 5 seconds and really help the coverage. So you're trying to figure out what exactly that situation calls for and have maximum, you know, distance and hang time to be able to help our coverage group out.
Jeff, last one. Tariq, as we talked about his decision-making last week, the one late in the fourth quarter, after you guys were trying to get the ball back, let it drop. What was your assessment of that decision?
Well, he felt like the ball, you know, hit and it wasn't like shooting out towards him, right? So it's kind of suspended in the air. The guys were in close proximity, not quite as close as it was in Tampa. He felt like he could get to it before those guys could impact him. You know, Tariq's a playmaker, and he's certainly, you know, an explosive athlete. And if you could have gotten past those two guys, you know, maybe would have had a chance at a play. But, you know, he knew it right when he came off the field. He said, you know, I had a chance to get through there. And he felt like if it does bounce, and he wouldn't have done it, obviously there was two of their guys there to be able to down it. So, you know, sometimes having the ball at the, you know, 4 or 5 is a bigger difference than having the ball at the 2.
Jeff, the Rams had 3 special teams guys make the Pro Bowl. As a special teams coordinator, how impressive is that to you?
Pretty impressive. I mean,
What
7.
does it say? Is it just because they have 3 good guys, or does it say more about just the way they're doing it?
Well, I mean, 75% of the NFC special teams Pro Bowl roster comes from one team. You know, they're obviously doing a good job in that. I think Hecker's a heck of a punter. Zerline's had a good year. Their returners really come on this year. You know, he was on their team a year ago, and Benny's their kickoff returner. Some guys, you know, get that opportunity and really, you know, take off with it. He wasn't their primary punt returner to start the season. Austin was. Tavon Austin was. You know, especially with returners and really any of the specialist areas, those guys need an opportunity. And it's all about what they do when they get that opportunity. And obviously, those 3 guys have maximized theirs.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. When you look at Deshaun Kaiser, what do you see?
I see a talented guy. You know, he's very athletic. He's a good scrambler. He does a good job of running the ball, both when he's scrambling out of the pocket and in their zone read game where he can pull it and has. So, you know, he's a very athletic guy and with a big arm.
What can your guys do to maximize the opportunities that he gives them to take the ball away, as he's done in other games this season?
Well, we just have to be where we're supposed to be, and if there's a chance for to get an interception, we need to take a, you know, full advantage of it.
Josh Gordon remind you of anybody?
Yeah, just a lot of good big receivers that can run. You know, whichever one you want to throw into that category that come to your mind. He's got really good size. He can run well. He's a good athlete, big catch radius, and you can see why they've been so patient with him, waiting for him to come around.
And as you look at Phil of him, the difference between now and even 3 weeks ago when he came back, does he look like he's rounding into shape?
Well, a little bit, but he looked pretty damn good in that first game too. So, you know, so much for you got to round into shape. This guy's pretty much come out and played a high percentage of their plays. He's only been out of there a few times.
Before you arrived, the Bears defense was historically amongst the worst in this organization ever had. Do you take any special pride in the turnaround that you helped transform your special personnel team?
Well, I mean, they were bad for 2 consecutive years, and and we've gotten it back to being respectable. In some cases good, some cases not good enough. But overall, I think the defense is in a lot better shape moving forward than it was those 2 years you are alluding to.
You guys are, go ahead.
As the season's winding down and maybe it's becoming a little bit more of an appropriate time to look ahead, do aspirations of becoming a head coach ever enter your thoughts?
It really doesn't. You know, I take the mindset on all that stuff to just let it happen. Usually if people are interested for any position, they come and ask you, come and try and get you. So, I've not seen many guys get anything when they banging down doors.
You guys are, I think, fifth in sack percentage, eighth in yards allowed. Why hasn't that resulted in more interceptions?
That's a good question. We've had our opportunities to have more. We haven't made the plays, finished them off in some instances. We need to come up with more. I mean, that's a valid point you're making. Our guys, some of our guys historically haven't gotten many in their career, so that's part of it. But we need to get more.
How much time did you spend on Myles Garrett pre-draft?
I watched him a pretty good bit. Was very impressed with him. Really good talent. Got the good size and speed and athleticism combination that you look for. I haven't really seen much of their tape all year, so I haven't seen him play since he's been in the league, but really did like him coming out.
What jumps off of his college tape?
Just his size and speed, quickness, athletic ability, his length. He kind of had it all, I thought.
What stands out to you about Kaiser's tendency or ability to run and try to create plays with his legs, the way he does that?
He's good at it. And he knows he's good at it. So if he has a chance to do it, he's quick to take it. So, and he's not like a lot of quarterbacks. He doesn't slide. He's like a running back when he's running with the ball. He's trying to get every inch that he could get, which we have to remind our guys of, when it comes time to tackle. And a quarterback who's scrambling, a lot of times you have to pull off a little bit ready. For this guy don't slide, he goes. So that's a strong point of his game.
Not to ask about that game from a couple weeks ago, but what impression?
Then why are you?
I'm going to do it anyway. What impression about Garoppolo when you were Syracuse?
Just that he was a quarterback. And I know that's some guys have talent, but they got a lot of tools in their box, but they're not a good carpenter. Same thing with quarterback. They got a lot of skills, got a lot of tools, but they're not a good quarterback. Like a pitcher, it's got the big arm, can do this, but he's not a pitcher. You guys know what I'm saying. This guy's a quarterback. He knows how to play the position. He's got good quarterback intangibles.
Will Kamara doesn't seem to get much benefit of the doubt, I guess, for a veteran player on penalties and stuff like that. Are those difficult plays for him, or is he just, are they misplaced by him, I guess?
Well, the one in particular last week, early in the first half, that was bad technique on his part. It had nothing to do with getting the benefit of the doubt or not. I was disappointed in our penalties last week. I think going into that game last week, our statistical people told me that we were the third least penalized defense in the league going into that game. So to have 4 penalties, I think, was disappointing.
And to have them on third down?
Extra disappointing.
Can you see a benefit to a coach saying publicly he doesn't know, he's not sure whether a young player is ever going to get it, saying that to the media?
Upside or downside to that?
Either or. Hugh Jackson said that this week about Deshaun Kaiser. He just wasn't sure if he was ever going to get it. He hoped he would. A calculated move, in your opinion? Do you think that can incentivize it?
Might be a way of Hugh challenging the guy. To say that, to make a general statement, is it good or bad? I think every situation is a little different.
What are your impressions of Duke Johnson and the way they use him as a pass catcher?
Yeah, very good player, very versatile. Mind you, somewhat of our 29 too. Very shifty, very quick. Can line up as a receiver and run routes. He'll take the ball anywhere when they hand it off to him. And they got a good 1-2 combination at running back. That's one thing they won't be needing in this upcoming draft with all their picks they got. All right.